honor for me.
Folks, welcome to Tucson, Arizona, here at Time Market. I'm joined today by a decorated vocalist, somebody who has been on her path for a long time, searching for her voice, doing it here and across the country. Sarah Tolar, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi, Jake. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a delight.
That's an honor. You know, two of my favorite cats are Bob Dylan and Jerry Garcia. And one of the things about Dylan is that a song like When I Paint My Masterpiece, okay, for instance, Garcia, in my mind, got inside that song and did an even better rendition of that song. Positively 4th Street could be the same way. So I wanted to ask you, in general, it doesn't have to be a cover, but just in general, how have you learned over time to get inside the soul of a song and tell that story?
Wow, what a lovely question. Thank you for that question.
Bless
Because
you.
I'm definitely, I was raised on singer-songwriters, so my parents were professional musicians and had a country duo act. That's
So
how
hip.
I know, so hip. And so they raised me on Willie Nelson and Joni Mitchell and these like profound
Emmylou Harris,
songwriters.
maybe.
Emmylou Harris, absolutely. And so that, starting there and then moving to jazz, I certainly feel that I like to have a wide variety of genre in a show, whether it's a jazz show or a pop show or a singer-songwriter show. And so the lyric is really where I go to. When you said, how do I get in the spirit of that song? I definitely go to the lyric as a songwriter and a person who wishes that if anything in the world I could be a better songwriter. That's kind of my lifelong goal, that I think the melody and the lyric, and most particularly the lyric, are what blows me away on some of the songwriters that I'm just a fangirl of. So
I mean, it's just to the point of like, to me, there's a formula trip way to sing, and then there's just sort of off the cuff. And I wanted you to talk about maybe how you learned an early indelible memory of putting the book away, throwing the book, because you know what, I tell you, I have a big problem today with all these we have such a great farm system of instrumental cats in this town. Great singers too, don't get me wrong, but I'm very vexed as to why they need music sheets on the bandstand. They don't need it. They want it for security, but you know what? And I'm not trying to be a purist, but Coltrane and McCoy, if they saw music stands, it's a rehearsal, it's not a gig.
I mean,
so can you talk a little bit about an early time? Everybody's got to fly blind a little bit. Can you talk about when you cut it loose and threw the book away?
God, well, that's such a great question. It makes me giggle a little bit because I come from New York City, and like there were no music stands, there were no iPads on the stage. And when I moved here, I was like, oh, we can have that? Oh, it's kind of a crutch, But I come from a place where that was not.
Why was it not? Why? I mean, the technology hadn't advanced, but what was the manifesto as it related to singing spiritual music? Because the minute you look at that stuff, you're out of your spirit mind.
Right, you're not as connected. I think, I mean, certainly there's knowing it, like you're saying, inside your body, inside your soul, but then there's also that connection with your audience. We're not playing in a practice room, right?
That's right.
So we are trying to connect and feel the energy exchange between the audience and the players. And so I think that's the first thing that, like you said, has to happen, where you have to kick the book out. I mean, certainly as a vocalist, there's an understanding or an expectation rather that we're going to have it memorized, and I think like recently playing with the big band here in town, the CRJO, it was like me memorizing not only the lyrics and then emoting those lyrics, but also the arrangement and making sure that I didn't make a mistake, and so there's that piece of it too. But I think,
was there an early experience in New York where you were fighting it because you wanted to be perfect?
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, because there are no mistakes. There are no wrong notes. And quite frankly, with something like the big band, I mean, obviously you don't want to be sloppy, but those cats are good enough to make it so that nobody's going to notice anyway.
Sure.
I'm just curious about like a time when you felt like your ears grew the most and you became more reliant on your soul to deliver that story.
I mean, that probably happened yesterday. I mean, the truth is, I came from North Texas.
It's a forever journey. I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I definitely came from a very intense, Denton. Wow, yes, a very intense program there. I got my
Yeah.
undergrad and my master's. And the reason I stayed to get my master's was because I felt like I wasn't ready after getting my undergrad to go out into the world, you know, and
Sure,
do my thing.
sure.
So, I mean, certainly when I arrived in New York, it was very like, okay, you know, I have to sing it exactly right and exactly straight. And I think really what did it, honestly, was in New York City being a part of what they call up in the Northeast the club date world, which is not a term that's used throughout the United States, but up there, it really means, you know, you're playing parties, you're playing music, you're playing live entertainment for a celebration of some sort, right? Or
Bar mitzvahs, weddings, or
Sure.
top 40 stuff? Or,
top 40
yeah?
stuff. Yep, absolutely.
dig.
There would be the jazz part, but then all the
Sure.
different genre. And then it's also music for people either to dance to, or it's for a corporate event, you know, where you're playing incidental music or walk on and walk off. I have a great story.
Do it.
I'd love to share.
Please.
Well, so I think learning on that bandstand is really what it is. You know, I would have a big orchestra behind me that I'd have to lead, and I never know what was coming next. So that's when I got off the book, because you're not on the book, whether it's lyrics or changes or an arrangement. You know, if something happens, you have to be on the fly. So
I love this. This is what I'm talking about. This is jazz.
it really is. That's true. You're 100% right. And
It may not be in a traditional jazz setting singing the American songbook.
Sure.
But if you're with an orchestra and they're swinging, and then you just have to swing with them.
right, you have to go with it.
Tell the story.
So Clive Davis was I know.
Dude, I'm still looking for that cat. Man. I got on my show, dude. I love that cat. man.
Yeah, well, we should get you connected with
Holy
him.
shit.
He was the godfather of a bride. I was playing her wedding, and I was a very new band leader, fresh
Yeah.
from North Texas, fresh to New York City, and it was at the Rainbow Room, and
Stan Getz, man. Duke Ellington, man. That's the best place.
there is some history in that room, and you
dude,
feel it when you go into that ballroom. It's astonishing. And so I had my band there, and we played our set, and I got cue from the people running the party. Okay, it's time for Clive's speech, because he was acting as like father of the bride. And he was going to give that first
He's a legend.
toast.
I mean,
He's a
MC,
legend.
yeah.
And so I announced him, ladies and gentlemen, Clive Davis, and he's walking toward the stage, and I had dismissed the band because I wanted them to get a break.
Oh, I love this.
And he comes up, and I go to hand him the wireless mic, and he whispers in my ear, "No walk-on music for Clive Davis." And I was like, and then he turns around, "Ladies and gentlemen," you know, and I was like, oh, and for then on, I always played walk-on music. But I mean, I learned that's like a lesson. He was not thrilled with me.
Well,
at all.
because he just wanted to see you in the most artistic fashion, give him the introduction that he
that
deserved.
he deserved,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So, I mean, what would be your advice to younger cats, too, that are overly reliant on the technology? I mean, so much music today also, guys that are just incredible players that teach a lot here.
Yeah.
The younger cats, they make beats on their phones.
Wow.
They're not even collaborating with human beings. And I just wonder, like, what would be your advice for younger singers and just musicians to push them out of their comfort zone and reconnect or connect for the first time with humanity? I was born in 78, so I had an analog life for about 20 years. You had to use your imagination. You had to connect with people.
Right.
Now music is made synthetically and in isolation. What is your advice to those to push them out of their comfort zone in order to grow?
Oh, that's such a lovely question. I mean, I think put the technology away. Use it. I do get envious that there are things like iReal Pro, which is the backing track, things like Slow Downer app, where you can I had to transcribe tenor solos, you know, at such fast BPMs, and now you can slow that down so you can transcribe it. So use those tools and then put them away. So
Right.
it's a gift that we have these tools, but just as you said, music, the art form is people coming together and playing that music together and learning from each other. I mean, the one thing when I was going to study jazz, the advice that I got, and I give this advice to my students, is that yes, the professors are world renowned, right? And yes, you want to go and connect with those people and have them as mentors. But really, why you're going to school to study music is for the community of musicians, is to play together, right? I mean that, and so I can offer that to anybody.
That's right.
now,
That's
right.
right.
play with each other. That sounds really funny.
No, but
Play
it is about the conversation. It's not about wanking it up there. Look at me, look at me, look at me, which is what a lot of music has turned into. And I just feel like it's a major challenge in our society now because the significance of live spiritual music has changed so much. So much of the stuff that is considered pop or successful, it's a manufactured performance. It's not even really. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of those cats can play music. There are some pop stars that could not even perform live. Everything is manufactured. And that's what worries me about the future. I mean, you can see us moving into this AI territory and this sort of lack of authenticity. But I think that, to me, the thing that I admire most about you is that a lot of professors, and listen, there are great cats like Billy Harper and Jabali Billy Hart and all these cats that I've interviewed who, Gary Bartz, they earned it on the bandstand, and now they're earning a paycheck in the academy. And I know that their students are going to come out sounding like themselves. The problem is there's a lot of cats in the ivory tower today who have not had any opportunities to road dog, have any kind of bandstand experience. So you're going from education and academy to more of that.
Sure.
And I feel like you would have more authenticity within the academy just because, as a teacher, because of the bandstand experience.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Have you had a memorable road dog experience in your life? I mean, were you toured?
Oh my God, so many.
I mean, what's a good Tolar, maybe like Northern Cali experience? I mean, what was you know, because the road can eat you alive.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I only did, with my original music, I only did short tours, like 2-week tours, international tours. And then I would do one-offs. I did do big stadium tours with a band called Chromeo, which is, if you're in the electro-funk world, you know who they are.
Talk about that.
Well,
So it was like beats and loops, funk kind of stuff?
It's a 2-person band, and they have a lot of
There we go, modern day,
And the keyboard player has like 5 or 6 keyboards around him, but they wanted, each tour they would do something different, so they wanted to hire 3 female background singers, and so I auditioned not knowing what I was really auditioning for in New York, and I got the gig, and I learned the music, and didn't realize until I got on stage at Lollapalooza, my first gig, Lollapalooza, 50,000 people singing every lyric,
Rock.
There's definitely that sense of like, oh wow, I mean, that kind of interaction, musical interaction with in-ears, and we're kind of far away from it's a huge stage, and we're far away from the musicians. Is so different than, let's say, something at an intimate jazz club where people are right there.
Throw the in-ears away. No, it's so that's so beautiful. So you've done it all. Where do you? Well, first of all, Jack DeJohnette and Jim Keltner exchanged sandals at a club that I am going to wager that your folks played at or took you to, the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach.
Oh, the Golden Bear.
I mean, were you going to like folk clubs? What was the for your folks who will listen to this? What is a memorable experience of them cooking it on the bandstand?
So I was born in Greeley, Colorado, and until age 10, that's where they were performing. They still had their
that's a
act
real
together.
folk scene out there.
Yes, big time. And I remember us playing. It was like the Greeley tree lighting ceremony, and I'm 4. Mom, correct me if that's right. I think I'm 4 or 5, and they were singing the tree lighting ceremony, and they had me come up and sing, and I just remember being very, very cold, but still like loving it, and just being on that stage there with all of the town there, celebrating this moment. So they, I was so little when they had their act together. I don't remember going to clubs. It wasn't really.
Okay, so I thought, because I mean, somehow I felt like you grew up in Orange County, but I guess that was.
Well, it was. Thank you for remembering that. When I was 10, we moved to Valencia, California, and now thinking about California.
Oh my God! Yeah, my gosh.
Santa Clarita Valley. Yeah, it's tough.
Well, I was gonna say. So you really didn't have to escape the dogma of Orange County. I mean, there's a certain way to live life, and a musician or an artist is certainly not that way. But your folks were they were out.
Done. They were out by then, and then I lived in Santa Clarita Valley for.
That's right where one of the fires.
Yes, I lived there from 10 until I went on tour right after high school. I did that's the tour I should talk about. That was a bus tour where we were setting up in all the whole 50 states. We'd set everything up, we'd do the song and dance, and then we'd tear it down and go to the next one.
Oh, wow. Huge
so
operation.
I was 18 at the time. Yeah.
What band was that?
Well, it was a group called the All American Singers. Kind of like an Up With People vibe.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and that I mean I learned a lot where you
Was it was it a gospel kind of thing?
No, it had religious ties.
Up With
and by
People
the
kind of,
time
yeah.
I had those, and then by the time I joined, it was more of a secular thing. But I mean, it was a great experience. I got to tour the country in a bus, singing and dancing all over. I mean, I talk about resilience and learning, like, okay, wherever you're sleeping that night, whether it's a hotel or you're being hosted by a family, you're up the next day, you're setting up. I mean, it definitely became, a hard worker if I wasn't already.
So beautiful. I mean, before we wrap up this installment, Bob Lambert has come to me in my life in a very important time, and he's been a kind of an angel for me. But I just wanted you to, Desert Vinyl, your record got pressed. I just want, for people around the world that are going to see this, hear about it, what would you say it was your intention for making this record?
Oh my goodness. Well, my intention was to honor this generous gift that Bob Lambert wanted to.
Well, he sees a lot in you, so I mean, yeah,
Well,
but I mean in terms of like the concept of the album itself.
So certainly I had never released an album that had covers on it. You brought up covers earlier in the interview. I'd only released albums of my original music. I'd also always been in the producer chair with a co-producer. So my first record was co-produced by David Cook, my second record by Bill Campbell. So this record, I was not in the producer seat. I was the artist.
And you had to let go of that control.
Oh, yes. And also just to have some other folks that were part of that project, that definitely was a whole new experience that I've never had. So that was me. And also to come to Tucson and then blend these two worlds. There's Tucson musicians on the record. There's New York City musicians.
I love
There's
it.
Bay Area. It's really
Yeah, no, I'm a Long Island cat. I will never move back to the East Coast, but I love bringing that vibe.
It, don't we?
We bring the vibe here, man.
We do.
And it is a magical place where you can go to the beat of your own drum.
Yeah.
Sarah Tolar, such an honor.
Jake,
Thank you for being part of the program.
Oh, it's such an honor to be on it. Thank you for having me.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.